All right, awesome. I think that we'll go ahead and get started. All right, so please make sure that your mics are muted. And just a little disclaimer to begin. These webinar sessions are hosted by Rachel Lindberg, Masters of Counseling Psychology Practicum student, and Ashley McLeod, that's me, Masters of Social Work field student. We're both supervised by Mark Rem, LPC, and the Director of Angelo State Counseling Services. So these webinar sessions are informational and psychoeducational, so they're not intended to be used as psychotherapeutic treatment. And today we're going to be covering some sensitive topics of like abuse and interpersonal, interpartner violence. So should these sessions cause any psychological or emotional discomfort, please call the ASU Counseling Services at 325-942-2371 or the Crisis Helpline at 325-486-6345 for immediate assistance, and that is available 24/7. And then we ask that you not share sensitive information in the chat box. These sessions are being recorded and they will be uploaded to our YouTube channel. So if you are in any emotional discomfort at all, you can contact our counseling services and we'll be here to help you out. And so a little bit about us. I'm Ashley McLeod. I am a social work advanced standing graduate field student. I conduct intake assessments and provide case management to services to students. And then after graduation, I'm going to seek licensure as a licensed master social worker. And then a little fun fact about me is I listen to like 10 different podcasts. So keep pretty busy those.
It's awesome. I'm Rachel. I am the counseling psychology graduate at Practicum student. I conduct intake assessments and I can also provide individual, couples, and group counseling. After I graduate, I will seek licensure as a licensed professional counselor intern to complete those long hours before I can get fully licensed. And for my fun fact, I share a birthday with one of my dogs. We have a lot of fun with that. But yeah, we can move on.
So today we're talking about healthy relationships and intimate partner violence awareness. This is a part of our weekly mental health webinars. So we hold these every single Wednesday at 11. If you would feel free to join, we're going to be covering a variety of topics throughout the remainder of the summer. I'll let Rachel take it.
Yes, ma'am. All right. So healthy relationships. What is a healthy relationship? The term toxic relationship gets thrown out quite a bit, but not everyone really knows what that is. And on the other side of the coin, what a healthy relationship looks like. And relationships are so different. They're unique to each individual that's in that relationship. So I think it's really important to kind of lay out there like what is kind of overall. So healthy relationships bring out the best in you and they make you feel good about yourself. They allow both partners to feel supported and connected while they also are able to remain independent. Communication and boundaries are some of the two major components of healthy relationships. And we for communication and boundaries last week in our in our webinar. And so that'll get uploaded to our YouTube if it's not already. I don't do the uploading, so I'm not sure yet, but it will be put on there. We might talk about components of those today. But ultimately, the two people in the relationship are the ones who get to decide what's healthy for them and what's not, as long as it's generally within the guidelines of, what is actually safe within that relationship. Important point to point out, just because you decide something's healthy doesn't necessarily mean that it is. So I think that's an important distinction. And also, if something doesn't feel right, both individuals should have the freedom to voice their concerns to their partner. It should be at a point where, both partners feel comfortable being able to express those opinions and concerns. So, what are some foundations of healthy relationships? So, communication and boundaries. Involved with communication is treating each other with respect, speaking openly to one another about your thoughts and your feelings, feeling heard when you're expressing your feelings. So, not only are you able to express them, but your partner is also able to reciprocate in that they show some understanding, or are trying at least to understand what you might be concerned about. Listening to each other and compromise. Some people don't prefer the term compromise, they prefer the term collaborate. Compromise sometimes has a connotation of somebody's giving something up, while collaboration shows that both sides of the party kind of get to a point where a common middle ground is able to be reached. Not criticizing each other, feeling supported to do things that they like. Every person has their own unique activities that they like to participate in. And just because you're in a couple doesn't mean that you have to enjoy each other's activities. I don't play video games or go to Dungeons and Dragons with my partner. So, I don't go. That's kind of a very good example of kind of what goes on with that. And then also being able to celebrate each other's accomplishments and successes. That is so super important. Definitely great to feel appreciated and like you're doing a good job in something. On the boundaries side, it's also about knowing your limits, knowing your values, listening to your emotions, having respect for others, and having respect for yourself. Are you able to show yourself the same respect you show to others? This is super, super important because sometimes we do not talk to ourselves how we would talk to anybody else. And I think an important aspect of being able to show yourself more respect is trying to talk to yourself as if you would talk to your best friend. Being able to hype yourself up, basically. The ability to be assertive, and then also considering like the long view. Are you always the one giving or taking? If it's one-sided on either of those, more collaboration needs to be done so that way it's equal on both sides. So healthy relationships are based on these qualities, and this isn't necessarily all-encompassing. There might be something that we've left out, but this is kind of like the overview of it. But mutual respect, honesty, fairness, and equity is a little bit different than equality. Having separate identities, like it's okay to still be yourself. You don't need to be like Bradgelina. Like you don't have to just because you're in a relation. They're not even together anymore. But anyway, you get my point. It's important to remain true to yourself and be genuine because you still are your own individual person. Being able to exercise forgiveness, fighting fair, which we'll talk about a little bit later. We have a worksheet for that. Exercising trust and support, and also being good communicators. So pacing, this one common, really common now, especially with what's it called, like the talking stage. Some people are like, how long do we talk? When do we become exclusive? Are we going fast? Are we going slow? That kind of thing. So pacing. What this means is that the relationship moves at a speed that feels enjoyable for each person. It's normal to want to spend a lot of time with someone when you first meet them, but it's also important that you're on the same page with how fast or how slow the relationship is moving. Once we're talking with somebody and you're not sure if you're exclusive or that kind of thing, it's important to also be able to like just ask. And you should be able to feel comfortable just asking like, where are we? What are we doing? That kind of thing. And in a healthy relationship, you're not feeling rushed or pressured in a way that makes you feel overwhelmed. So if that is the direction it's going in, then a conversation might need to be had about the pacing of the relationship. So trust. This is the confidence that your partner won't do anything to hurt you or ruin the relationship. It should come easily, and you don't have to question the other person's intentions or whether they have your back. It's also respecting your privacy, and the other person would never try to put you through a test to prove your loyalty. The common phrase that's used is, if you loved me, you would X, Y, and Z. Ooh, that phrase, yes. Okay, if you do love someone, you might show your love to them and show it through your actions, but it should never be forced or demanded from you in that way. Honesty. So honesty goes very hand in hand with trust. Honesty. So be truthful and candid without fearing how the other person will respond. It's okay to, be nervous if you're kind of talking about a sensitive subject or trying to figure out where you two are going, or you're on a serious topic like engagement or moving in or marriage. Like, it's okay to have some anxiety and worries about how that conversation might go. But if it's to the extent where you are fearful of how they might respond, that might be a sign that it's more of an unhealthy relationship. So you should also be able to feel like you can share the full truth about your life and feelings with each other. You'll never have to hide things. So don't take this the wrong way. It's okay to keep some things to yourself. You don't have to share a minute by minute detailed explanation of what's going through your mind, because sometimes we see somebody in Starbucks and we think, oh my gosh, he's a little cute, and he's not your boyfriend. That's okay. You don't need to share that with your partner. And it's okay to also have those kinds of feelings or whatever. It's just how somebody look. You might like their haircut or whatever. And that's all right. But when you do have to tell your partner something and you are having a serious conversation, you should feel like you can share the full truth, and share the pieces that you want to, as long as it's, not harming yourself or harming somebody else. They might not like what you have to say, but at least they'll respond to disappointing news or maybe a disagreement in a way that is considerate, respectful, and loving. That's kind of the main takeaway of it. So, independence. You should be able to remain yourself and be yourself and do the things that you like to do, as long as it's not harming anybody else. You have the space to be yourself outside of the relationship. Your partner should be, this goes like with friendships too, and with siblings and family. They should be supportive of your hobbies and your relationships with other friends, family, and coworkers. The other person doesn't need to know or be involved in every part of your life. Like I said multiple times already, as long as it's not harming anybody else or harming yourself, if there's something that you like to do and you want to keep it a secret, I'll leave that very vague, then you don't need to share it. It could be something as simple as getting a really gross drink combination from Sonic, or even be something as complex as, what you might be into and like other areas of your life. Again, I'll leave that vague. Not everybody needs to know everything. And also being free to do you and giving your partner the same freedom. If you're not demanding, but if you're, kind of requesting or trying to be considerate of the things you like to do, also remember that your partner also has things that they like to do. Whether that's Dungeons or Dragons or whatever, then, leave them to it. It's something that makes them happy. Respect. So that's valuing one another's beliefs and opinions and loving one another who they are as a person. Feeling comfortable setting boundaries and being confident that the other person will respect those boundaries. And having them cheer for you when you achieve something, support your hard work and dreams, and appreciate you. Respect, just because we love or like somebody doesn't always mean we show them respect. It's really about maintaining boundaries and valuing who they are as a person. And also equality. So does the relationship feel balanced? Everybody's putting in the same effort into the success of the relationship. You feel like your needs, wishes, and interests are just as important as the other person's. And sometimes we might put in more than the other person, whether that's money, time, or emotional support. But or maybe they might be doing the same. But if the outcome is equitable and even, then that might be okay. In some relationships, someone might make more money than the other person, and so maybe they do rent 75%, 25%. That's okay as long as both parties are comfortable with that being an aspect. Kindness. I love kindness. So kindness is being caring and empathic to one another and providing comfort and support. Your partner will do things that they know will make you happy. Kindness is given and returned in the relationship, and it's the ability to show compassion for the other person and the things that they care about. Sometimes when we're comfortable with somebody, we can be mean. Sometimes we're honest and blunt, and while that's okay, sometimes we need to make sure we're saying things in a kind way so that they'll respond back in kindness. And speaking of being honest and blunt, sometimes it's also taking responsibility. It's owning your actions and your words. It's avoiding placing blame and being able to admit when a mistake has been made. Genuinely apologizing when you've done something wrong and continually trying to make positive changes after that in order to better the relationship. And then also taking ownership for the impact of your words and behavior, even if it wasn't your intention. We might say something that is honest and blunt, and it hurts the other person's feelings. Okay, we didn't intend for it to be like that. We're just telling the truth. But if it does hurt the other person's feelings, then something might need to be addressed, something to the extent like, I'm sorry I hurt your feelings. I didn't intend for it. However, this is how I felt in that moment, or this is how I felt XYZ, fill in the blank. And that can be a difficult conversation to have sometimes too. But yeah. So healthy conflict. Just because you're in a healthy relationship doesn't mean that there's never disagreements or never conflict. So having healthy conflict is being able to openly and respectfully discuss issues and confronting disagreements non-judgmentally. Conflict is normal and expected in any part of any relationship, family, friends, siblings, romantic partners, that kind of thing. Just recognizing the root issue and addressing it respectfully before it escalates into something bigger is super important. Your partner not doing the dishes may not be the problem. What might be the problem is maybe there isn't equity in how the chores are split up. So it's not him or her or whoever. Exactly. It might be the actual splitting up of the chores that's the issue. And then no one should be belittling or yelling during an argument. Things get heated, voices get raised, but you can also have a disagreement and use the same tone of voice that I'm using right now. It really shouldn't turn into anything that's just mean or rude. And also fun. So relationships should be fun. You should enjoy spending time together and bringing out the best in each other. It should feel easy and make you happy. This isn't to say that relationships are always easy, but most healthy relationships, there's no fear of pressure, fear of force. It's easy to be in it. You can let loose and laugh together and be yourselves. It doesn't bring your mood down and it cheers you up instead. No relationship is fun 100% of the time, but the good times should definitely outweigh the bad. Things happen in life all the time. People pass away, there's financial problems, schools, everything, and that's okay, that's just life, but the way you act in the relationship and the kind of relationship you're in shouldn't add to those, unexpected things that happen with life. So consent. So one thing that comes up with relationships is sex, or not even just sex, but any sort of contact. This is hugging, handshaking, fondling. That's a common kissing. Yes, thank you. Kissing, that kind of stuff. So yes, consent. Consent allows both partners to express what they are comfortable with doing. Consent is ongoing. If it's given once, does not imply future consent. So just because you've engaged in sexual activity one time doesn't mean that it's going to be a-okay every single time. It's not a free pass. Consent to one act is not consent to all acts. You know, usually when we go in to kiss somebody, it doesn't automatically mean that like they're okay with having sex, however you define sex. Um, there needs to be consent for each level of activity that you're doing. And also, relationship status does not guarantee consent. Just because someone is labeled as your boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife does not mean that you can do anything to them whenever you want, or even whenever they want back to you. You also have the ability to give consent. And there's no such thing as implied consent unless somebody says yes, nods yes, and says no, nods no. If someone's asleep and you start holding their hand, they kind of like it. That does not give you automatic permission to just go for it. The best way to ask is say, can we do X? Can we do Y? Can we do Z? And if they say no, or even if they say, I don't know, or I'm not sure, all of that is a sign that consent has not been given. Very, very important. And it is also not consent if you are afraid to say no. This happens a lot with sexual assault. And this is very sensitive. So, again, if you feel like you need to call up to counseling services, please do so. But yes, in the moment, the person who's being assaulted may or may not say no because they are being forced, pressured, coerced, or threatened. That doesn't mean that they gave consent. And also, non-consent means stop. It means don't touch them, don't try to keep pressuring, don't try to keep going. Drop it, leave it, move on to something else, whether that's going in a different place or talking about something else or whatever. It's going to look different for whatever is going on at the time.
Definitely. I know as college students, Title IX kind of hammers consent into us, but it's always still something that we just go over kind of guidelines and everything. And then, so this half of the presentation, we're going to be talking about unhealthy relationships. So if you're seeing unhealthy signs in your relationship, it's important to not ignore them and understand that they can escalate to abuse. If you are in a dangerous situation, trust your gut and get help. And then please be reminded not to share any sensitive information in the chat box. These are recorded sessions. And then if you need any assistance, any help, any discomfort, you can contact counseling services. And that number again is 325-942-2371. There's a domestic violence helpline at 800-799-7233 or the crisis helpline at the very bottom. 325-486-6345. So unhealthy or abusive relationships, some key words with this are like isolation, intimidation, physical and or emotional abuse, threats, forcible sex, minimizing or denying. So some components of unhealthy relationships. The first thing is intensity. So when someone expresses very extreme feelings and over-the-top behavior that feels overwhelming. So we talked about in healthy relationships how at the beginning of a relationship you want to see someone all the time, and that's something that's super normal. But if it is too intense, if it feels overwhelming, that might be crossing into an unhealthy boundary. And then things are getting too intense. If you feel like someone is rushing the pace of the relationship, they come on too strong, too fast, they seem obsessive and wanting to see you and be in constant contact. So intensity can be an issue in romantic relationships. It can be an issue in friendships or professional relationships. All of these can. It does not just apply to romantic relationships. It also applies to identifying friendships, familial relationships, different things like that too. And then possessiveness. So this is being jealous to a point where they can try to control who you spend time with, and what you do. And then jealousy becomes unhealthy when it causes someone to control the situation or lash out. And then getting upset when you text or hang out with people they feel threatened by, wrongly accusing you of flirting or cheating, or even going as far as to stalk you. So possessiveness is pretty close with isolation, which we're going to talk about in a minute. And then it's often excused as being overprotective or having really strong feelings for someone. So some of these markers of a possible unhealthy relationship can be kind of a blurry line. And a lot of the times we might miss some of these markers because of how we're brought up. And you're like, oh, well, if they do this, if they're very intense with you, if they're jealous, that means they really like you. Which jealousy is totally normal. It's a natural feeling, but there is a point where it does become unhealthy. Okay, and then manipulation. So trying to control your decisions, actions, or emotions. Often hard to spot because it can be expressed in subtle or passive aggressive ways. So this is kind of what we talked about with like gaslighting. That's a bit of a popular term. It was originated, I think, in the 1920s, maybe the 1800s. I don't remember. But gaslighting is kind of that making you feel like you're not correct. That's a very simple way of putting it. So that is a form of manipulation. And you know you're being manipulated if someone is trying to convince you to do things that you're not comfortable with, or they ignore you until they get their way, or they try to influence your feelings. And then isolation. So when someone keeps you away from friends, family, or other people, often starts slowly with someone asking you to spend more one-on-one time with them, and then later escalates to demands that you don't see certain people. And then often asking you to choose between your partner and your friends or your family, and then insisting that you spend all your time with them, making you question your own judgment of friends and family. So isolation is a pretty big one, because when you think about the path to abuse, whenever you cut off your friends and your family, you don't have any outside social support, and you become dependent on your partner for, like the slide says, love, money, or acceptance, or even just dependent on them for your self-esteem, dependent on them for your happiness, all of these different facets of your life. And then sabotage. So this is when someone purposefully ruins your reputation, achievements, or success, keeping you from doing things that are important to you. So college students, if you're really invested in sports and you really want to go to the gym all the time, and your partner might be trying to keep you from going, or keep you from studying or succeeding in your activities that are important to you. And then behaviors like talking behind your back, starting rumors, threatening to share private information about you is also sabotage. So the thing that immediately came to my mind was the term revenge porn, of like sharing explicit images that were given in confidence, with the expectation of it just being for that one person, and then posting it on the internet or sharing it with friends. This is what would kind of go into this category. And then there's another category too that we'll talk into. Sabotage. Some of these words sound a little intense, but they are pretty intense actions. So then we go into belittling. So we talked about this with fighting, making sure that you don't belittle people. So doing and saying things that make you feel bad about yourself, name calling, making rude remarks about people that you're close with, or criticizing you personally, and making fun of you in a way that makes you feel bad, even if it's a joke. So um, oftentimes people disguise things with a layer of humor when it still is belittling, and it can still be offensive and hurt your feelings and make you feel bad. And then over time, belittling really makes you lose, it can make you lose confidence in yourself and your abilities, in your decision-making skills, and your ability to make close relationships with friends, different things that can have a big effect on your life. Okay, so guilting. Guilting makes you feel, they make you feel responsible for their actions, or make you feel like it's your job to keep them happy. A good thing, a good rule of thumb with relationships is, while they should be a source of happiness in your life, your partner is not responsible for your happiness, and vice versa. So it should be something that is a source of good and a source of those like fun feelings that we talked about earlier, but it's not your job to keep them happy. So blaming you for things that are out of your control and making you feel bad for them, threatening to hurt themselves or others if you don't do as they say, and then pressuring you to do something that you're not comfortable with by claiming that it's important to them, or that it'll hurt your feelings if you don't do it. This goes into what we were talking about with consent. So you have your right to your body, and anything that happens to your body. So this also includes things that are not related to sex, but also sex. So if you're not comfortable with doing something, if you're not comfortable with even like kissing in public, that sounds like something that is simple, but making sure that you're not being pressured into doing things that you're not comfortable with. And then volatility. So this could be having a really strong, unpredictable reaction that makes you feel scared, confused, or intimidated. Makes you feel like you need to walk on eggshells around them, or that they will have extreme reactions to small things. Might feel like a roller coaster that contains extreme ups and downs. So this kind of goes along with like the eggshells. So you might be having so much fun, you're out on a date, you're going up the roller coaster, and then you close the door a little bit too hard, and they're like, oh, are you slamming the door in my face? And then it goes into that volatile state. And then overreacting to small things, having major mood swings, or losing control, including getting violent, yelling, or threatening you. And these acts of violence do not have to necessarily be against the other person. This is also acting violent towards animals or property, so like throwing things. And then deflecting responsibility. So repeatedly making excuses for unhealthy behavior, blaming you or other people for their own actions. And then oftentimes this includes making excuses based on alcohol or drug use, mental health issues, or past experiences like a cheating ex or divorced parents. So it's important to understand that mental health issues can have really significant effects on your life, but it does not excuse you from your responsibility for your actions. It is not anyone's fault for having a mental health issue, but it is your responsibility to make sure that you take care of your health, your mental health, your body. And then just you have to take responsibility for your actions. This is what we talked about on the flip with healthy relationships. And then betrayal. Betrayal is another one of those like intense sounding words, but it's an intense thing. It's not always cheating of like physical cheating or emotional cheating, but it is just it's about trust and honesty mostly. So when someone is disloyal or acts in an intentionally dishonest way, they may act like a different person around other people or share private information about you to others. This is also like the sabotage of maybe this like revenge porn. They're sharing images or information without your permission. And that's kind of a big betrayal of trust and security. And then it also includes lying, purposefully leaving you out, being two-faced, or cheating, of course. And then we go into these different types of abuse. We do have a little worksheet that kind of goes in depth about most of these. So of course there's physical abuse, which is what people typically think about whenever you hear the word abuse. So this is acts of physical aggression, of hitting, kicking, violent outbursts, things like that. And then there's verbal and emotional abuse, which is kind of more along the lines of yelling. And then there's mental psychological abuse, which is on more along the lines of gaslighting and making you feel like psychologically, mentally, you're unstable or make poor decisions, things like that. Sexual abuse, just forcible sex. Digital abuse, which can include combing through a phone, reading text messages, monitoring social media accounts, posting from your social media accounts, different things like that that happen cyberly. And it also includes cyber threats or cyberbullying. So communication that happens digitally. And there's cultural abuse where a partner can feel like their culture is being attacked and not respected. Financial abuse is one that we don't really hear about too often, which is where a partner is controlling of the financial economic situation and maybe withholding information and things along the lines of that. And then we have stalking, which is like following, monitoring an individual to the point where they feel unsafe. Okay, and then we have all these little worksheets that are for like healthy relationships and like identifying stuff. So we're going to link these in the little chat box. All right, so this one goes over the different types of abuse. Oh, I sent that just to Rachel. Sorry. There we go. So physical abuse, this is the hitting, punching, kicking, using objects or weapons, physical restraint, preventing a partner from eating or sleeping, threatening to repeat physical harm, emotional, psychological abuse, name calling, belittling, humiliation, yelling, screaming, controlling what a partner does, what they wear, where they go, threatening to commit suicide if a partner leaves, threatening to kill the partner, their loved ones, or their pets, and then gaslighting, manipulating a partner into questioning their own sanity, sexual abuse, Persistent unwanted comments about partner's body or sexuality, unwanted kissing or touching, threatening or coercing partner into unwanted sexual activity, rape or attempted rape, purposefully infecting someone with the STI, and then digital abuse, demanding to look through your partner's phone, posting hurtful information or pictures on social media, sending threatening texts or emails, financial abuse, using money to manipulate and control your partner, not allowing them to work or go to school, and not giving them money for necessities, or stealing their money or possessions. And then stalking, following, monitoring, and harassing someone, causing them to fear others. So those are some of the different types of abuse. And then, so now we have a fun relationship growth activity. This is pretty cool. So these are kind of like 20 questions of just like discovery questions to ask about your partner. So some fun things. What song is your partner into right now? Have they read a book that had a major impact on their life? Some things about us and the relationship, things about hopes and dreams for the future, work-life questions, emotional questions, and then other relationships in their life. And then relationship conflict resolution. This is another little awesome worksheet that kind of goes through how to resolve a conflict in your relationship. So focusing on the problem, not the person. I'm mad at the situation. I'm not mad at you. You left toothpaste in the sink. I'm mad that I have to clean up after you. I'm not mad at you. Things like that. Using reflective listening. So rather than listening to respond, listening to understand. This is kind of like what we discussed with active listening in our webinar last week on interpersonal skills. So reflective listening is also repeating what they have said back to them in your own words. So this helps to kind of establish a common understanding and make sure that you know what your partner is upset about, that you really understand what is going on. Using I statements, of course, and then knowing when to take a timeout if you're too mad, if you're going to start yelling, if you're going to cross one of those lines into an unhealthy behavior, knowing when saying, hey, I need like 5 minutes, I need like an hour, I'll talk to you tomorrow, whatever your time frame is, and being able to set that time out for yourself. And then working towards a resolution. So there's going to be disagreement in every relationship. Every single person you're not going to be dating or friends or family with yourself. So everyone has their own unique experience. Everyone has their own unique viewpoint and family dynamics, and they have their own person, their own personality. So you're gonna have disagreements with people, and that's okay. But just using some of these tips to kind of resolve these conflicts is pretty important. And then fair fighting rules. Before you begin asking why you feel upset, so this is kind of like the toothpaste in the sink. Am I upset at the toothpaste in the sink, or am I upset that I have to clean up after you? Discussing one issue at a time, no degrading language. So it's kind of like the belittling. We don't want to belittle anyone. We're mad at the situation. We're not mad at the person. Expressing your feelings with words and taking responsibility for them. These I statements, making sure that you identify and that you know how you feel so that you can be a better communicator. Take turns talking. Make sure that you're not, if one person isn't dominating the conversation, and even busting out a timer if you need to, saying, hey, we need set time so that we each get the same amount to have a opinion heard. No stonewalling. So the stonewalling is whenever you refuse to communicate. This is different from setting a timeout, because setting a timeout is a specific stated time frame of whenever you are cooling off. But stonewalling is just like refusing to discuss the issue. No yelling. It's not a competition of who can be the loudest. So that's a good kind of fair fight rule. Taking timeouts, as we've discussed, and then attempting to compromise or come to an understanding. And then this couples gratitude journal, which is a cool little worksheet that you can print out. It's like just a weekly journal of just saying, my partner showed me affection by blah, blah, blah. Made the bed in the morning. I was happy when my partner did something. The best part of the time we spent together today was whatever is going on. I think that this can be really important as we kind of sink back into quarantine, to kind of, if you're with your partner for these extended amounts of time, to kind of say, okay, you made me laugh today. I noticed your strength. They changed throughout the week, so this is a really good tool to use. Okay. And then some supportive services for intimate partner violence. Always, if you feel like you're in immediate danger, call 911 so that the appropriate authorities can get to you. The National Domestic Violence Hotline is 800-799-7233 or SAFE. And they also have their website, thehotline.org. The San Angelo Family Shelter's phone number is 325-655-5774. The Crisis Intervention Unit is 325-658-3921 and 325-655-8111. And then the Texas Council on Family Violence office is 512-794-1133, and their website is www.tcfe.org. These are all awesome resources. This is not an exhaustive list by any means, but if you feel like you are experiencing intimate partner violence, or a friend might be, there are definite resources available.
I just want to point out real quick that the San Angelo area does have text to 911. So if you feel that you're in a situation that you cannot verbally say anything on the phone, texting is an option. I've also heard about strategies where you pretend to order a pizza. I don't know how effective that is. It's always best to be able to be direct about your situation and where you're located and all that. So I think I recommend doing the texting over that. Or if you have a code word with a friend that you can use, your trusted friend, and give them a code word. And then that way they know. Amanda H. She said, I think having a black dot on your palm or hand is a way to alert someone you think you are in danger. Yeah, if you let someone else know about that and you are like, hey, I'm just going to FaceTime with my friend real quick, and you can just give a wave, and that be something that you can share. That's effective. There are tons of tips out there for stuff like this. There's more so like with the National Domestic Violence website. that can give that kind of stuff. But I just wanted to say really quick that San Angelo does have the text to 911 option. So, yeah.
Yes, definitely. That's an awesome resource to mention to you, because sometimes in these immediate danger situations, you cannot talk on the phone. Yes, I've also heard of people who are like going through ordering pizza, or they order a pizza on an app, and in the description they write notify the authorities or something like that. And then definitely some other just general resources that we always like to include. The National Suicide Prevention Line is 800-273-8255. The Trevor Lifeline for LGBT youth is 866-488-7386. The National Sexual Assault Hotline is 1-800-656-4673. And the Veterans Crisis Line is 800-273-8255. Press 1. And then our ASU Crisis Helpline is down here is 325-486-6345. And our ASU Crisis Line is available 24/7 to you. So now we're going to open it up to some questions. If anyone has any questions, again, be mindful not to share sensitive information. These are recorded sessions. And then if you experience discomfort or you need help, contact counseling services or the appropriate authorities. The counseling services is 325-942-2371. And the domestic violence hotline, 800-799-7233. So with that being said, we'll open it up to questions. If you guys have any comments or anything. Any books or authors? What do you think? Go ahead and go back to the screen. You're muted.
Sorry. If you're asking about books like on relationships in general, John Gottman is a researcher and psychologist, I'm pretty sure, who has books written about relationships. He has one called like the 7 Principles of Making Marriage Work and the Relationship Cure and things like that. He's like one of the leading marriage and couples therapy kind of researcher. And but specifically for like domestic violence or anything like that, I don't have anybody specific that we have books of.
Yes, about relationships in general, Brene Brown, celebrity social worker, has some really awesome research and several books on vulnerability and being able to open up. She recently started a podcast that has some really awesome, insightful episodes on it. For specifically with interpartner violence, nothing comes to mind, but that's not my area of expertise, so I haven't done too much research in that particular field. Yes.
You're welcome.
Hey, do we have any other questions? I think that we're good. All right, let's go ahead. We'll stop there. Oh, you're welcome, of course.